Heyo, what's good everybody? Welcome back to another Ever Crisis video. Your boy Shays coming at you with the Reawakened Final Fantasy IX crossover draw part 2, featuring the rerun of Garnet's Rod and Kuja's Spirit Blade, and called it in the last video an extra weapon in Quina Megaphone. So Garnet's Gown gets an update of 5 extra points for boost HP, so that's pretty nice if you have that already. Kuja's attire gets a little more love with 5 points of boost HP and 5 points of boost magic ability potency. So again, really nice if you have it, and something to tempt you to pull if you don't. Garnet's Rod did get the update as mentioned, now with 3 ATB. Kuja's Spirit Blade now with no update, but that is because it's already a good weapon. And then of course, just like the previous banner, the new weapon is the star of the show. It is the Quina Megaphone, however you want to pronounce it. I'm just going to call it Quina Megaphone, and you can take a look at what it has to offer right over here. And without further ado, let's jump straight into the comparisons. Garnet's Rod is an easy comparison with Yuffie's Crystal Cross. Garnet's Rod's primary stat is its heal stat, which is pretty good. And the Crystal Cross's primary stat is magic attack, which is also pretty good. They have pretty much identical R ability points, at least the totals, and one has HP, more utility based, one has magic attack, more offensive based. The support materia are pretty much identical, and so are the command abilities. Actually, these command abilities are exactly the same in every way except for the new 3 ATB for Garnet's Rod, but it costs a little less. For weapon synergies, there's not much to say here, honestly, for existing synergies with her weapons, because it buffs magic attack. It's going to be good with all of her magical weapons. So Silver Staff, Snowflake, Wizard Staff, all of them are going to have the magic attack buff, so they are going to hit a bit harder. Same thing with Egg Staff, Wiser Staff, and Prism Rod, except above the fact that they are going to be buffed with the magic attack buff, they also have boost HP. So all of these will have boost HP level 8 with the Garnet's Rod. That makes her a lot more survivable, gives her a lot of survivability. And then the same thing with the Kimura Wand, it's boost HP level 8. Plus she's going to have the physical attack buffs from Kimura Wand, magic defense buffs, plus the magic attack buff from Garnet's Rod. The sub-weapon value is pretty decent. It's a total of 85 R ability points, and it's HP and ability potency. They're pretty generic, and it's kind of nice for any character really. Kuja's Spirit Blade is another easy comparison with Vincent's S1976C. Yeah, pretty much these are the only two weapons that are like each other. Kuja's Spirit Blade has a slightly higher primary stat with magic attack. The S1976C though has a lot more total R ability points. They're pretty much identical except for the fact that Vincent's has a more boost ability potency in the R2. Kuja's Spirit Blade does have the triangle sigil boost, whereas Vincent's support material is kind of meh. And their command abilities are actually pretty much identical as well, except for the fact that Sephiroth's lasts a little bit longer, the debuffs that it applies, but also his secondary debuff, he needs to have 50% HP or more, whereas Vincent's weapon doesn't have a condition. So you could actually argue that the S1976C is actually just straight up better than Kuja's Spirit Blade, and it's not limited. For weapon synergies, not a lot to say here either. With Edged Wings, you get maxed out boost magic attack, and with Shinra Blade Model 1, you get boost ability potency level 6. But that does not mean, that there's no synergy and that the weapon's bad. The Kuja's Spirit Blade is more of a standalone weapon. It's more about the command ability than anything else. And so it can be pretty much used with any other weapons, and it's really strong with, it has synergy with team comps rather than Sephiroth's own weapons. Sub-weapon value, I would say it's a pretty meh sub-weapon because it only has a total of 72 R ability points, and it's locked into boost magic attack, so it's only really going to be good as a sub-weapon for magic DPS. So you're definitely getting this for the command ability and not as a sub-weapon. Then Quina Megaphone is another easy comparison with Kimura Wand. These weapons are very, very similar, but because both of the weapons are limited weapons, I wanted to, for your sake, at least compare it to a non-limited weapon. So I decided to go for Syringe Rapier. Obviously, these are pretty different weapons. The one has the AOE physical or offensive buff and an AOE defensive buff, whereas the Syringe Rapier is just 2 AOE defensive buffs, but at least it's a weapon that deals 2 AOE buffs, basically. So it's a good comparison, in my opinion. Okay, Quina Megaphone versus Kimura Wand. Primary stat is physical on the Megaphone and heal on the Kimura Wand, and the R ability points are similar, with a focus on boost attack for the Megaphone, whereas a good spread between HP and buff debuff extension for the wand. You can immediately see that the Megaphone is a little bit more offensive based, whereas the wand is more healing utility based. They both have very good support materia, so not much to say about that. And then if you take a look at the command abilities, they are pretty much identical, except for the fact that the Kimura Wand is physical attack and magic defense, and the Megaphone is physical attack and physical defense. And all of these are AOE buffs, so that is really good. And yeah, that's pretty much all there is to say about that. These weapons are super comparable. One's slightly more offensive, one's slightly more healing utility, and they have different defensive debuffs. Versus the Syringe Rapier, again, very similar to the Kimura Wand in that it's offensive versus utility, primary stat physical versus primary stat heal, and boost attack versus, again, exactly the same as the Kimura Wand, HP and buff debuff split up. The support materia for the Megaphone is a bit better because it has that attack boost for wind and circle sigil boost, whereas the Syringe Rapier only really has the all cure spells, which is still pretty nice to have. And then, of course, the command abilities are actually pretty similar, except obviously the one has an offensive. The Megaphone has one offensive AOE buff and one defensive AOE buff, whereas the Syringe Rapier is double defensive, so magic defense and physical defense. They are still AOE, and they both start at mid to high potency versus the Megaphone straight high potency, and 20 seconds on the Megaphone versus 14 on the Rapier. So the Megaphone is arguably better. For weapon synergies here, fairly interesting because the Quina Megaphone raises the physical attack of all allies by high potency. That means that all of these physical weapons that I'm bringing in with synergy are obviously going to have stronger abilities because of the buff. So I'm not going to mention that every time. All 4 of these are going to hit harder because of the physical attack buff, of course. So with Gold Megaphone, you have the buff debuff extension, of course, from the Quina Megaphone that makes all of the buffs and debuffs last longer, and you have 4 potential buff debuffs. So it's the physical attack from the Megaphone, the physical defense from the Megaphone, the fire resist from the Gold Megaphone, and the potential, I believe it's physical attack down, the last debuff on the Gold Megaphone that's conditional on HP or a crit, something like that. Excuse me for not recalling. But all of those, that's 4 potential debuffs that can be extended as well with the Megaphone, so that's pretty nice. Yellow Megaphone, it's all about the already strong ability being even stronger with the high potency physical attack buff. There's kind of wasted R abilities because they both have boost attack and it takes you straight over the cap of the highest max. So actually not that synergistic. I said oops, maybe I shouldn't have added Yellow Megaphone at all. Silver Megaphone and Battle Trumpet, however, are pretty good. Silver Megaphone is great because of the physical defense debuff, which obviously combos really well with raising your whole party's physical attack. And then the Battle Trumpet is good as well because it's AOE, so the AOE is stronger, and then it has the double offensive debuffs, and then that makes it, again, 4 buff debuffs that can be extended. Sub-weapon value is a total of 88 points, and the high boost attack makes it a fantastic all-around sub-weapon. Attack and buff debuff can work on a lot of different characters. And then on top of that, a lot of the time, depending on how overboosted your weapons are, you might have, for instance, like boost physical or magic attack maxed out, and then some kind of elemental potency, level 8, which is usually the sweet spot. And that actually usually, if your weapons are overboosted enough, that leaves you with a third slot where you can almost do anything, and this would be really good to put in there to give yourself a bunch of boost attack as well, making your DPS even stronger. So overall, Garnet's Rod is nothing special, honestly. It's a standard R85 weapon, which is pretty good. The 3 ATB is quite nice now, makes it actually a good weapon. Of course, it's a great generic sub-weapon with HP and ability potency. It can work on tons of different characters, and it does fall into the 5th best heal stat category weapons in the game right now. So not bad at all. Couple of reasons to pull for this weapon. They're not very convincing reasons. Is if you don't somehow have a magic attack buffing weapon at all, you might want to consider it, but even then you probably want to get a non-limited weapon that can do that. Other reason is if you really love Final Fantasy IX and you want to collect all of the Final Fantasy IX goodies, then you might want to pull on it. Or of course, if you pulled for it previously and you're close to an OB6 or an OB10, kind of like the last banner, then you might want to try and pick up a few copies. For Kuja Spirit Blade, it's a nice weapon for sure. It obviously works best with the Magic Sephiroth build because it has boost magic attack, but it can still be used in any builds. For the debuffs, it's really all about the command ability. It does only have 72 total R ability points, so it is a terrible sub weapon, and if you're getting it, you're probably getting it for the command ability. A couple of reasons to pull for this as well. Also nothing crazy. It's if you don't have, for some reason, or not planning, should I say, for some reason, to pull for Vincent's weapons, for example, the S1976C. Another reason is similar to the previous one. If you pulled for it previously, close to OB6, OB10, then maybe grab a copy or two to get where you need to get. Or if you want multiple offensive debuffing weapons, so Vincent's weapon and this weapon, then you have the options at least. For the Quina Megaphone, it is a very good weapon for sure. It does have average stats, so no like top stats in any of the stats. Standard R88 weapon, so R ability points are good. It is a fantastic generic sub weapon because boost attack is very high, 62 points dedicated. And buff debuff extension can be pretty useful for a lot of different weapons. And of course, it's got good support material as well. So I don't have a lot of reasons to pull here, mainly because the anniversary is coming up and, you know, that's really all that matters to me and should be your priority as well. But if you really like Ketchi, you could pull for it. If you don't have the Kimura wand, it's actually pretty good to pull for as well, because you might want a powerful AOE physical attack buff. Final thoughts overall is the Garnet's Rod is definitely better with the 3 ATB update. It's still not really worth chasing if you don't already have a bunch of copies, as mentioned. It does work well as a sub-weapon for almost any character or build, so that's nice. But in my opinion, it's just not good enough to pull for being a limited weapon. You could just get something like Yuffie's Crystal Cross, which is very similar. It does cost 1 more ATB, but I think that's worth it to get a standard weapon that you can keep getting versus a limited weapon, which is not so easy. So prioritize the anniversary. Kuja Spirit Blade, again, is a very nice offensive debuffing weapon. It's also not really worth chasing if you don't already have a bunch of copies from the first time this came around. As mentioned, you know, I would definitely be recommending pulling for this weapon a bit more and saying it's definitely more worth it if it wasn't for instance S1976C that they added, which is pretty much identical to this weapon, if not better, because it has more total R ability points. And of course that weapon's not limited, this one is limited. So honestly, this weapon would be good if it wasn't for that weapon, but since that weapon is a thing, definitely rather go for that and prioritize the anniversary. Last but not least, the Quina Megaphone is a pretty tough one to skip. That is Deja Vu from the last banner with the Beatrix sword. They are both very good weapons. This is obviously great for full physical teams and against physical enemies. I would say it's arguably not as good as Aerith's Kimura wand, because they both have that 70% HP condition to get their defensive buff, and because Aerith is a much better healer, she can keep top up a lot easier and keep that 70% or more HP condition up, whereas Ketshi either needs like a single target cure or needs someone else to keep them topped up so that he can actually get that second buff off. Other than that though, this really helps Ketshi become a mainstay consideration for teams, because at least in my opinion, the way I felt, like he seemed pretty good when he came out, but he fell off really quickly, at least for me, I would say. And now with this weapon, if you combine it with some of the other weapons I mentioned earlier, he can become a really good support character with buffs and debuffs. So this weapon really does bring him into the limelight if you're considering getting it. So it's definitely a good pull, but it is still a limited weapon, and as mentioned a few times, the anniversary is even closer now. So I would say unless you really like Ketshi or you can really afford to, you know, pull for this and the anniversary, I would say probably skip it and prioritize the anniversary. But yeah, this weapon is very good. So overall, that is pretty much it. Please let me know in the comments below for what you are planning to do. Are you planning to pull for any of these weapons or outfits? Are you planning to skip it and go for the anniversary? Or do you have enough resources to do both? Let me know what your plans are. I would be very interested in finding out what other people are doing. And with that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one real soon. Have a fantastic weekend. See ya.